if you want to pull up the presentation again.
I'm on it. So many buttons. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Welcome back, everyone. That was our third and final breakout session. It's a couple slides back, Maria. Yes, there we go. So once again, just want to hear from a few groups what you guys are thinking. Some of the things that you guys are putting in the notes look really interesting, so looking forward to hearing back from some of you. Just anything specific to this breakout room, any ideas that you talked about earlier that you didn't get a chance to share. Yeah, anything that you'd like to talk about. Noah, go ahead.
So something that our group discussed was how in a lot of cities, like in North America, like the way they're designed is that the east side of town is normally like the bad end or like the wrong side of the tracks, as a lot of people will call it. And we kind of discussed why the reason that could be is. And something that I brought up was this TED talk that I watched where the guy doing it stated that it was because of how like pollution worked during the Industrial Revolution and how like the wind would blow toward the east side. So obviously you had money, you wouldn't want to live there, so you could move toward the west side. I guess I don't know how entirely true that is because like I don't know if it was well received, but like it does kind of follow like the wind patterns of what it looks like in the United States. And just with like how America has expanded from east to west, like obviously if you have money and you want to like, you know, create a better life or you want to move away from certain like types of people because you're discriminating against them, if you have the money to do so, you would move west because that is the direction that, you know, new areas are at. So for like a lot of places like older cities, that might be a reason of why like things are so disparaged. And then obviously we have, you know, more recent things like redlining or, you know, not publicly funding hospitals and things like that that just further those differences.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Actually, this is something I was talking about while you guys were in the breakout rooms. If you guys noticed on Monday and Tuesday, the sky was kind of hazy and you could almost look directly at the sun. This was on the local news for a while, but the reason for that was smoke from the California wildfires was blown over Cincinnati. It's over to 2,500 miles is what was making the sky hazy. So it definitely supports that idea of westward wind patterns. Yeah, would anybody else like to share? Zainab, go ahead.
Hi, so we kind of talked about like a more affordable access to healthcare and like health like resources because a lot like even just over the counter or like hospital bills or all of that is not cheap. It's really expensive for families. So if like that could be a little more affordable for families to afford, to be obviously more ideal. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cost of care. Yeah, they said it best in the chat. The cost of care is prohibitive for so many families, and that it really, at a certain point, you have to ask yourselves, what kind of society do we want to live in? Should healthcare be a human right, which is Globant's position, or should it be dependent on how much money your family makes? Anybody else like to share? Adam, I'm gonna call you in because you were putting really interesting notes in the documents. I want to hear about your dictatorship ideas.
So basically saying that like if we had a dictator who was like just and fair and inclusive, they would be able to like run the community better, and I guess like they would I don't know how to term this right, but they would be able to oppress people who are not just, like people who are not inclusive, not fair, kind of um like I don't know how to explain it. Like if you let me ask you this. If you were to run a society and let's say someone was, I don't know, like racist or not inclusive, like all the bad things, and you couldn't stop him. Like through a democracy, you wouldn't be able to stop him. Would you want to do it through a dictatorship?
Hey man, I grew up in a monarchy, so I've experienced this firsthand. So
Okay.
not to say that I'm completely against you.
Yeah.
All right. If there's anything else that you'd like to share from your breakout room, you guys did have some really interesting notes. I didn't just mean to focus on the dictator idea.
Oh yeah. So we kind of went on a rant against capitalism and how like it, yeah, it creates like an idea that like someone's superior than the other person, and that kind of is what creates like a whole non-inclusive environment. Like in a capitalistic society, there's kind of this belief that, oh, I'm better than this person because I have like X, Y, and Z. um and in order to kind of like go, anyone else from the group want to chime in and help me out? It's okay if you don't, it's okay, but
I see Noah has his hand up, so let's see what
see what
Noah.
Noah wants to add.
Okay, I wasn't in Adam's group, but I recently had a discussion with someone recently that was similar to this topic. So I think I might be able to help him out a little bit. So I think that, like, as weird as this might sound at first, like a dictatorship, like, is the most efficient form of government in the sense that everything gets done quickly, right? Because you're one person. So I think he does have a point with, like, if you're caring and you actually do want what's best for everybody there and you do it in a correct way, that, like, ideally you would be able to have like a country that's good and, like, you know, and just and fair. And something that kind of relates this back to our partner is that, like, I read this thing recently where it was an article talking about, actually I think I looked at it last week when we were talking about our partner, but it's kind of known that even though Thailand has a king, that the king they have right now is not super well liked because, you know, he kind of acts like a dictator and there's kind of like a lot of government things going on. Whereas his dad, who was the previous king, was a little bit more just. So people were more okay with having a king at that point. And it kind of went into, you know, the differences of like how people thought about the king then versus how they think now. I'll see if I can find the link, but it was kind of an interesting read. And it kind of went off of what Adam was talking about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we're going to cut things a little bit short. Come back next week for more political hot takes. Maria, if you could go to the last slide, please. Just to finish this off, we have 6 ways to talk about the social determinants of health. This is just maybe your 6 main takeaways, ways to think about real outcomes that we want to think of that come from talking about this topic. The idea that your health starts in your homes, your schools, your jobs, your neighborhood, or your job shouldn't be houses for your health. Health begins where we live, work, learn, and play, and the opportunity for health begins in our families. These are things that are really relevant to GlobeMed's mission, relevant to just the topic of health in general, and yeah, we hope that you take these ideas and run with them. That's all from me and Anish, unless Anish, you have anything else to add?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wow, awesome. And thank you everybody for just being brave and sharing back all your thoughts and all the discussions you had. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming, so thank you to everybody. And at the end of each meeting, we like to do something called a collective breath. So this is just an opportunity to take a deep breath in together, feel like we're all in the room together, and expel any bad energy so that we are fresh and rejuvenated and ready to get our week going. So I invite that if you have any like closing thoughts, reflections, or quotes that you want to share in the chat that we can, you know, have our breath on, if you could just pop them in there or unmute yourself.